All right. Hello, everyone. We hope that you are doing well wherever you are, and welcome to our group presentation video. And hereby, me and my colleagues would like to share some information and research that we have done about migration trends, particularly in Myanmar-Bangladesh border tension crisis. And hopefully, our presentation will be beneficial for all of you. And now let's just jump into the materials. Okay, so we have the group presenter here. There is Kasih, and then Nancy, and then me, myself, Neysa, and also Wulan. And we will discuss about the introduction about migration itself, Myanmar-Bangladesh border tension, the push and pull factors, consequences of the migration, international response, and also conclusion. Okay, let's go into the introduction. Introduction of human migration is the movement of people from one place to another with the intentions of settling permanently or temporarily at a new location. The movement often occurs over long distances from one country to another, which is external migration, and then internal migration within a single country is also possible. Indeed, this is the dominant form of human migration globally. Some migrants leave their country because they want to work, study, or join family, and this is voluntarily, and others feel like they must leave because of poverty, political unrest, gang violence, natural disasters, or other serious circumstances that exist here. And we have divided migration explanation into two objects, which is migrant and refugee. First, we have migrants. Migrants are traditionally described as persons who change their country of their residence for general reasons and purposes. These purposes may include the search for better job opportunities or healthcare needs. This term is most generally defined as anyone changing their geographic location permanently can be considered as migrant. And then we have refugees. Refugees are not defined and described as persons who want to relocate. The reasons for the refugees' migration usually involve war actions within the country or other forms of oppression coming either from the government or non-governmental issues. So this is the kind of forced migration. So they have to leave because they have to. And then next slide, we have Myanmar and Bangladesh border tensions. Okay, so here's the explanation about the border tension that is happening in Myanmar and Bangladesh. The Bangladesh and Myanmar border, first I want to explain about the border, is the international border between countries of the Bangladesh and Myanmar. And this border stretches 271 kilometers from the 3-point with India in the north to the Bay Bengal in the south. About 210 kilometers of the border is fenced, with the government of Myanmar announcing in 2017 that it was planning to fence off the rest of the border. And the neighboring countries, Bangladesh and Myanmar, generally have chilly relations under the Burmese military junta as a result of the presence of more than 270 Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, often a major cause of irritation. Bangladesh civil society and political class have often voiced solidarity for Burma's pro-democracy struggle. However, relations between the two countries have taken a sharp nosedive exponentially as a result of the Rohingya genocide, which has seen the influx of more than 1.1 million Rohingya refugees from Burma's Rakhine state into Bangladesh. And now, weeks of relentless gunfire and shelling by the Myanmar military along its border with Bangladesh have added to the tensions between the neighbors. Local media reports earlier this month said that more than a dozen Rohingya have entered Bangladesh amid the cross-border firing, seeking refuge in camps near Teknaf. The firing from Myanmar has escalated tensions between the neighbors, raising concern of a new Rohingya exodus into Bangladesh, as well as diminishing prospects of their repatriation into Myanmar. And here we have the briefly timeline about Rohingya refugee crisis. First, in 1982, where citizenship law was enacted by the Burmese government in that year, the Rohingya are not one of the 135 ethnic groups listed in the paper, which the government claims were established in Burma prior to 1823. So the Rohingya conflict is an ongoing conflict in the northern part of Myanmar Rakhine state characterized by sectarian violence between the Rohingya Muslim and Rakhine Buddhist community. A military crackdown on Rohingya civilians by Myanmar security forces and militant attacks by Rohingya insurgents in Buti Dao, Maung Dao, and Ratha Dao townships which border Bangladesh. And that in 1992, there were more than 250,000 Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. An agreement to repatriate refugees was struck by the government of Bangladesh and Myanmar. But then the conflict arises chiefly from the religious and social differentiation between the Rakhine Buddhists and Rohingya Muslims. During World War II in Myanmar, Rohingya Muslims who were allied with the British and promised a Muslim state in return fought against local Rakhine Buddhists who were allied with the Japanese. Following independence in 1948, the newly formed union government of the predominantly Buddhist country denied citizenship to the Rohingyas, subjecting them to extensive systematic discrimination in the country. And then in August 2017, armed attacks, massive scale violence, and serious human rights violations forced thousands of Rohingya to flee their homes in Myanmar Rakhine State. Many walked for days through jungles and undertook dangerous sea journeys across the Bay of Bengal to reach safety in Bangladesh. This shows despite the humanitarian assistance, not much support has been received from aid organizations. They have been denied the human rights ranging from the state to social authorities from lots of instances. Security remains a key priority in the world. However, Rohingya face the dilemma of security in this global era. And in 2022, Bangladesh is home to around 900,000 Rohingya who live in camps. They are unable to work or pursue formal education, leaving them with no choice except to rely on humanitarian aid to meet their basic necessities.
Okay, so here's come to the push and pull factors that have influenced the migration. What kind of migration is it? The forced migration from Myanmar to Bangladesh, that Myanmar military junta's systematic violation of Rohingya human rights, has caused thousands of Rohingya to flee the nation. As a result, thousands are forced to live as refugees, primarily in Bangladesh, while others go to Malaysia, Singapore, and the Middle East. For many, seeking sanctuary in Bangladesh was an unexpected experience. However, fleeing to Bangladesh relieved them of their suffering. Myanmar and Bangladesh share a 168-kilometer border, but security and political challenges occasionally strain the bilateral relationship. For example, Rohingya refugees who cross the border momentarily and continue to live in camp in Bangladesh, joining Cox's Bazar district. And international migration happens over and over, involving the people of Myanmar who migrate to Bangladesh from Myanmar to find a new place and build a new, better life because of crisis and that occurred in their own country that required them to migrate. And then migration happens because of the social environment, which is where Rohingya are constantly being oppressed. Since their independence, the Rohingya Muslims have been subjected to various human rights violations, including mass killing, rape, torture, which have continued to this day. These have been resulted in a long-term refugee catastrophe in neighboring Bangladesh. Thousands of Rohingyas are still displaced and rely on humanitarian aid to survive, while some are subjected to suffer repression by Myanmar border guards.
So consequence of Rohingya migration turning Bangladesh national security. So the overcrowded condition of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh has made humanitarian aid rationed by humanitarian organization tent. Many problems that arise in evacuation include food shortage and malnutrition, healthcare problems, water supply, sanitation, shelter, limited opportunities and freedoms, education, and several other things. As a result, Rohingya refugees no longer want to depend on humanitarian aid. They began to venture out of the refugee camps in search of income to be able to provide for their life. Pressured by the lack of energy, these refugees justify all means to earn a different income. They are involved in illegal activities that threaten Bangladesh national security. The existence of these illegal activities that threaten the national security of Bangladesh include, as you can see on the screen, for the first the expansion of the network of extremist groups and the sphere of violence. This is because of refugee camps are located in border areas so poorly monitored to provide shelter for extremist groups and become a base of operation even as fertile ground to run recruitment. The second, transnational facilities for dissemination of weapons, drugs, and combatants. Refugee camps are usually filled with the people who have a low level of education and are in poor living conditions. With the lure of rewards to make ends meet, refugee camps can quickly become a place for armed cells, military education for combatants, and planting ideology for doctrine. The last, creating military tension. Generally, refugee camps are located in border areas of two countries, and activities are carried out at the border, so any such activity is feared to have an impact on neighboring countries. On this, neighboring countries will usually be defensive against it. Next slide, please.
Okay, so we have an international response on Myanmar-Bangladesh crisis from ASEAN. It is worth mentioning that the use of landmines in border areas during peacetime is a clear violation of international law. As ASEAN is a successful regional organization among Myanmar and its Southeast Asian neighbors, it can play an important role in pressuring Myanmar to stop its dirty game to ensure stability at ASEAN's borders. In addition, Bangladesh also has close relations with ASEAN because it can be an observer. Bangladeshi police have been granted observer status in ASEAN APOL this year. In fact, the Rakhine conflict zone and its inhabitants are also part of the ASEAN community. Therefore, ASEAN should take this issue seriously and engage in one of the ASEAN borders. And now, ASEAN representatives based in Dhaka, then in voice stationed, have said they will relay Bangladesh concerns over the situation along the Bangladesh-Myanmar border to their capital. So we'll see what the response is. And then next we have conclusion.
Okay, so here's our conclusion. The first is human migration is the movement of people from one place to the another with intention of settling permanently or temporarily at the new location or geographic region. The movement often occur over long distance and from the one country to the another country or external migration, but internal migration within a single country is also possible. And then the Bangladesh and Myanmar case is there is a Bangladesh and Myanmar have a chilly relationship due to the presence of more than 270,000 Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh. Bangladesh civil society and political class have often voiced support for Burma pro-democracy struggle, but relations between the two countries have taken sharp nosedive as a result of the Rohingya exodus into Bangladesh. The forced migration from Myanmar to Bangladesh that Myanmar military junta's systematic violation of Rohingya human rights has caused thousands of Rohingya to flee the nation. Thousands of Rohingya are still displaced and rely on humanitarian aid to survive, while some are subjected to serve repression by Myanmar border guards. And the last is the Rohingya refugees are leaving Bangladesh refugee camps in search of income to be able to provide for their lives. They are involved in illegal activities that threaten Bangladesh national security with the lure of reward to make ends meet. Refugees come to quickly become a place for armed cells and military education for combatants. ASEAN can play an important role in pressuring Myanmar to stop the dirty game to ensure stability at its border. Bangladesh also has close relation with ASEAN because it can be an observer. It's worth to mentioning that the use of landmines in border areas during peacetime is clear violation of international law. So that's all for the conclusion.
Okay, back to me. And having said that, they are all our materials for today. And we would like to say thank you for your attention and see ya. Thank you.